this as far as how I'm currently using and integrating some questions. We talked about that we want to send questions ahead of time, have them answer them. This is a way to do that. We used to have a website that did this, and there's a group that are pulling that together, and there's some others who have other means to be able to do this, but this is what I'm using right now that's available to everybody and anybody. If you have an Evernote, so I'm using Evernote, I'm using a premium account. I understand that Evernote has a discount, like 75% off a premium account, and it's not very much anyway. I think it's $20 to begin with, but for churches, they get 75% off. So if you happen to want to use this, this will only work. You have to have a premium account if you send the questions to them and you want them to engage in there and answer the questions. I'll show you what I mean in a moment. But that's what would be necessary in order to do that. And like I said, it's just, I believe, $19.99. But for churches have 75% off. So maybe something you want to do. I'll show you what I do, and you can make a decision on your own. I'm not suggesting this is the only way to do this. All right, so here's your my Evernote account, and what I've done is I coach a number of people, and I've created a master file, and so that I don't have to redo everything when I send it to other people. Now, when I coach people, you only see here session 1 on there. There is no other sessions on there, because once we get started with session 1, the sessions 2 is going to be completely different for everybody. And you start over. But there are some other files that I want to share from time to time, and all I have to do is copy and paste into there. And so here's what I use. Well, here's session 1 that we have in here, and all I do is just drop these intake questions. I get those intake questions right out of my appendix on Gospel Coach. You can do whatever you want, and I don't do more than 20 questions. And here I'm just asking them about them, how they came to faith, you can see on here. And so all they have to do, and I even dropped the little bullet point there, so they just know, they just have to type right there. What was that first question? Tell me about yourself. I am here. And then they continue on. You just hit return, and it goes right there. And so that's all they have to do to pull that off. And it's real simple. So then when I send those ahead of time, I let them know. Up here is a little sync button, and that will sync it back and forth. One quirk with Evernote is that if you use this, one person at a time uses it. If you're both sitting there and you're both entering at the same time, it doesn't know how to compute that, and it says you have an error, and it will put both copies on there. So if you want to do that, all you have to do is say, I'd like to capture that. Okay, so the person taking notes hits the sync, the other person then hits sync. All right, we're synced up. Now you can type. And then you have to do the same thing if you come backwards. So I choose to, as a coach, capture all those notes so that they can just talk and they don't have to think about writing it down. And I'm trying to capture as much as I can with that. That's what I do. And the other advantage to this, when you send questions ahead of time and they answer them, man, you have an agenda, you have a direction you want to go, and you're not setting the agenda, you're letting them set the agenda. So when I say agenda, that doesn't mean that I as a coach am setting this for them. Instead, what I'm doing is letting them explore the questions. What is it's most important? For instance, down here at the bottom, and we don't get to these in the first session, but at the bottom, I will write, what 3 issues are you facing in your life right now? And it gives them. So that's where we start session 2, is go like, now you, and here's what I do is I say, you listed these. Would you like to talk about one of these or something else? Because something else may have come up since the last time we met. So again, as a coach, you're not setting the agenda, driving what you're going to say. You're letting them do that, and you just simply ask them what they want to discuss and go from there. But having done that, so then we follow up, and I say, how are you and your spouse doing? How are things with, whatever. So I have a list. I can follow that along. They have that already set up. And we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about those issues. It could be a follow-up. I'm reviewing back what they did last time. And I can follow up and say, looks like you're tracking well with this. Enough said. We don't have to keep talking about it. And you can if you want to, and they need to, but you don't have to. You follow what I'm saying? So it really speeds up, and it gives you a framework to go down and a direction. Now, when I do this, I don't go like, all right, let's get to it. And I don't say, all right, second question is. I am just free-flowing. So they've already answered the questions, and we're not going over every answer. So you answered that your wife's birthday was, we're not going over those issues. And even if it's a real question, unlike that, even if it's a real question, I don't have to go over every detail and get their answer. That's not how that works. And now the other thing it does is it lets me see contextually what is happening with the whole thing. Where are they right now? It could be like a cynicism that comes out through that, and I can address that. Or it could be they feel like, man, they're really depressed, or they're really heavy right now, and it gives you a chance to pray. And always at the end, I ask them this question, and I should better say it like this. Now, how can I pray for you? How can we pray? You get the point. I'm trying to do this backwards. How can we pray together? So again, it's not I'm your priest. I'm your Holy One. I'm the one who has connection to God. You come to me. I'll pray for you. But it's how can we pray together on an issue? And I always include that because you just never know. You don't know what's out there. You don't know you don't know what questions to ask. And this right here lets them, they can go any direction they want. But where are they going to go? Glenn, if I said, how can I pray for you? Or how can we pray together? He'd say, probably, I go, give me one thing I can pray for you. This is rhetorical, but give me one thing. You're going to go, what's most important? What do I really want prayer for? And that's what you're looking for, is some insight there. So that's how I do it. Now, back to Gospel Life Plan. I've created this little table that simply shows the Gospel Life Plan like that you had there. And there's a little thing up here that makes tables and no big deal. Just dropped it right in there. And so here you got your calling under personal, spiritual, missional, your goals. On it goes. I included some instruction with it so they know what to do with it and go forward there. And these things here just move whatever size that you need. You can keep typing as long as you want. And it just return. It just keeps growing, and it does it and morphs for itself, whatever it needs to have done. Simply add a new note. New note is right here, one of these notes. I title it whatever date we're going to be meeting, and you just rock and roll from there. It's just that simple. So to share, I have a coaching prayer list where everybody is asking, how can I pray for you? And I drop those in there. When they say I can pray for this, I drop those right in there. And I can look at those anytime. The advantage of this is I can get it on my iPad and on my phone, wherever I am, or my computer. I can access those at any time. They're not, and so if I'm sitting somewhere, I'm stalled out, I'm going to look and see, I'm going to pray for the people I'm coaching. And I just pull up that notebook on prayer. But if you were to share this, you just throw it in there. Who do you want to share it with? Individuals, create a public link. I don't know what that does. It's a little scary. I'm not sure what that actually does. But I want to share it with an individual. All I have to do is email them, put it right there. Just view it or modify it. And so you can have them just see it. Without the premium, all you get is these first two. You can view it. With the premium, you let them modify. I've never let anybody else invite others. I'm not sure who they'd invite, but you could do it where they gives them the right to invite others to be in that shared notebook. It could be a spouse maybe they want to invite to be a part of that as well. And that's all it is. And boom, share, you're done. It's that simple. So then I have all my coaching notebooks right here. And I can navigate. I'm not going to open them anyways up, but I can navigate those real simply. Make sense? I mean, that's how I'm doing it. Just it keeps me. I can look at them. I can modify it on here. I can do it on an iPad, do it on a computer, wherever you happen to be, and you always have it accessed all the time. So that lets me do more without feeling like this is so weighty. Even having a computer, I'm going like, I got to take notes. I got to file them somewhere. I got to remember where they are. I can't access them except they're on one thing. I could put them in Dropbox and access them here, but you get my point.
You bring up the notice on session 1 at the bottom is a PDF for confidentiality.
Oh yeah.
How do you use that?
I put that on session 1. So yeah, down here's, I just put a PDF. You can attach files to that. This, if you put PDF, it shows up, opens it like an image. There's a tag up here that says, that has a note clip. And perhaps, let me get out of the full screen and maybe it'll show. But there's, I believe there's, one of these has somewhere. Let me go into one that doesn't have one already on there. Should be a paper clip here that let me do that. And I'm not seeing it right there. But anyway, there's a paper clip that says just add a file. That's how it did it.
Do you bring that up in the first session then, or do you just leave it?
I ask them if they have any questions about it. Nobody ever does. I take that back. One person asked about, is it truly confidential? Yeah. Then that was the only question I've ever had with it. And I just took that right from the book as well. I mean, I'm not trying to be overly creative with this. Just pulling it right in. Reproducibility is the big thing. If you're going to do multiple people, it's that reproducibility. Can I do this? Can I get a rhythm? Do I know where stuff is? How to go? And so I don't share this notebook. This is my master file, where if I find something I like over here, there's a couple little things. Here's 40 leadership questions. Here's some X-ray questions from Paul Tripp. Mark Batterson, 10 tips for setting goals. Just whatever I think might be helpful at any point, at any time. And I can embed it into theirs. I just have to go in there and copy it and paste it. And you know how that works. So it's real simple that way. So that's how I'm using it to kind of keep track and can be confidential as well. Okay, anything else on that? I try to send it out a few days ahead. My goal is to have it about 5 days ahead. Gives them a chance to see it. If I'm really energetic, I'll do it, further out. But give them about 5 days. And I don't need a lot of time before seeing it. I certainly want to get it. I want to read it. I want to pray it through it. But if I get in an hour before, that's fine. I encourage them not to wait till the last hour, but if that's what it is, that's what it is. So that's how we do and walk through that. Let's walk through now the cross. When you're actually meeting with someone, this is chapter 10. Meeting with someone, what do you do? And came up with this idea of cross. Actually, Tom Wood came up with the idea of, called it cross. Coach method uses an acrostic that's found similar and very helpful to kind of go like, well, what do I do? And the first thing is you connect. You connect. And you connect with them. You review past sessions. You find the objective for that that session. Not objective for life, objective for that session. Then strategies, then supplication, spirit, prayer. So what would this look like? You want to connect. Simply identify and invite someone to be into a discipleship process with you. You can word that any way that you'd like. We use the terminology of being a disciple, but would you like to, can we meet together and I'd like to walk with you? As I mentioned to you, if you're going to go through the training, you say, I'm being trained in this, will you help me to be a better coach? As far as those first people that you invite. You share the coaching covenant, just let them know, here's what you can expect from me, here's what I expect from you. And part of what you expect from them is just participation. But you're going to tell them, you're going to be confidential about this. Set up those two, connect them by setting up first 2 appointments. You don't want to get stuck not doing that. Send them around 20 questions, get to know them. You can use, like I said, in the appendix as an intake thing. There's also one that's a whole diagnostic that is almost like applying to law school. So you don't necessarily want to go down that route. You want to make it doable, pick your own questions, whatever it works for you. And then read the questions ahead of time, pray for them, pray through that, pray for insight, pray for spirit come on that, and then have your first session and connect with them relationally. So you always want to be able to connect and keep connecting to them relationally. You care about them and who they are, and you're going to connect to their heart, their life, all throughout that. A sheep, okay, it knows its shepherd, and so you want to both let them know you want to know them. And the more you know them and you understand what they're going through at whatever level, the better you're going to be able to coach them and walk them through. So for instance, you go, I want to know them personally. How did you become a Christian? What is God doing in your heart right now? What opportunities have you had for sharing your faith? Just anything to help to understand who they are, what's going on. Okay? R is review. What do you want to review? Review the past sessions. So each time that I create a new note. It's called a notebook. Would be Joe Sample and me is a notebook. And then there's multiple notes. And each session has its own notes. And I put them by the date. That's just the way I keep track of them. I put them by the date, and I can pull it up at any point. And each one has that. So I can look back. What did the last one? What did we talk about the first time? What about the time? And so you can review some past things, and you bring those in. Bring them back in, say, here's what we talked about last time. We either didn't get to it, or let me follow up with this. You were going to approach a donor, let's say. You're going to approach a donor at the end of last week. How did that go? So you're just engaged in that conversation with them. You're not trying to be nosy. You're just looking for ways that you can help. So you review some past sessions, review any accountability. You can call these action points. Simply create another note that looks like, and it shows up. You can just put all action points under that. That's how I do that, is I just create an action. I call it action points. You can call it accountability. You can call it whatever you want, but it's just places where you're going to drop down those things, and then you can follow up with them. And they also have these. That's the beauty too. They also have it on whatever device that they're looking at, and they can see it, and they can change it and alter it, and they can delete it all if they want. But you're giving them an opportunity to remember. I met with a coach. I can't remember what we agreed on. I can't remember what were those steps, and it's right there in their file. Evidences of God's grace. Sometimes you just need to help people see how's God working in your life. It's doing some great things. My friend Bob Logan, who I mentioned earlier, did the CoachNet. He used to do the term, "What can we celebrate?" They didn't actually fit with me personally. If that's what you'd like to say, what can we celebrate? What are evidences of God's grace? I was with a smart aleck. I have a lot of smart aleck friends, but I was with a smart aleck guy who was doing some training, and Bob was showing him, what can we celebrate? And so we were on the subway in New York City, and he was walking up to people randomly and asking him that question. It's memorable. Anyway, whatever issues you're going to focus on for that coaching session, those are things you're reviewing. We mentioned before the 5 relationships. You can review those. Go like, well, I don't know what to ask. Just think in the terms of God, relationship with God, with self, with friends, with spouse and family, with work. You're just thinking those categories. You can ask questions accordingly. You can focus in on one area, but you want to give them an opportunity to have it's wide enough where they can ask whatever questions and engage in conversation wherever it's going to fit them. So you don't want to just pigeonhole them in. We're just going to deal with this one issue. That's where they want to go. That's where you go. But you're not going to pigeonhole them. So you try to keep it wide-orbed, full-orbed, if you will, enough where they can answer anything and they can talk about anything, okay? That's where you want to be a little bit more wider than that. Objectives. So now that you've got, so I asked the question, what are 3 things you'd like to, that are creating some issues that you're dealing with right now? Well, we can't deal with all 3, but we want to find what the one is. Decide 1 or 2 objectives and then narrow it down to clearly define one thing. Now, if it's something completely outside of their gospel life plan, what God has called them to do, completely outside of that, they're going to need to make some connection there. Why do you want to talk about this? I have a friend that's into pinball machines. He's into pinball machines. And so we were coaching one time and talking back and forth, and he just wanted to talk about pinball machines. I said, this is cool. Tell me how this ties into. And then he told me he uses this missionally. And I thought it was completely just like, this is just some quirky thing about him, is he loves pinball machines. And he said, I get these, and I invite people to come over, and they play these, and they engage, and I engage at a level that you can't engage them normally. I don't know if normally and pinball machines goes together, but you get my point. My physician friend, Chris Scott, down in Virginia, he went through this training and he said, this is what we're talking about. When you're talking about an objective, like a doctor is looking for the chief complaint. They're looking for that one chief complaint in their patient, and they're going to deal with that. They're not looking for all of them. They're dealing with one. And that's what we're talking about with the objective, is find that one thing. And then he said, here's what he did. He even told me, he said, we walk into the room, we knock. And I said, well, why do you knock? And he said, we want to be invited in to this very private space of their life, their bodies, to examine. We have to be trusted. So we always knock, even though you know we're coming. The nurse has already told you he's coming. You've waited forever. You're sitting there in a gown or whatever, and here he comes walking in. He said, he knocks, he invited. So when you say, come in, you're inviting me to come and be a part of this very private space. And he said, then we engage in, I want to connect with the patient. And some doctors go real quickly towards the problem, but he said, I want to engage with the patient. That's connecting. And I want to see, how has the treatment been going? He's a dermatologist, so he said, how's that topical treatment going? You've had this itch, this rash, whatever. I'm helping you with this. He's trying to figure out, how's it going? That's review. Then he said, I'm looking for, why are they here today? Well, I have another rash that came up on my leg on this side. It's a little bit different than what we've dealt with before. And so he's looking like, all right, so that's our objective. Then he says, I said, well, what do you do now? He said, we take steps of action toward that, or strategies to try to get rid of whatever objective is that they're dealing with. And then that's our process. And he says that's very similar to what we're trying to pull off. So if that helps you to think like a doctor, think like I'm being invited into their life, this private space, and I get to connect with them, review how things been going, find out what they want to talk about today, and then start taking steps of action toward that. The thing that we get to add to that Dr. Scott does not get to is we get to pray for them and really depend upon the Spirit to move that. In Dr. Scott's case, he just doesn't pray for them right there on the spot. but has a relation with them. So that's what it's like. Now, like a doctor, you get to engage in areas of a person's life that they may not be as comfortable going down. When you're shaking hands, as the worship leader tells you to turn around to your neighbor and shake hands, it's not the time to discuss some real major issues, right? I mean, you should try that, though. That would just be, I think it'd be hilarious. I think that's what I'll start doing, because that's the most uncomfortable time of a service, is when people that you don't know are turning around because they were told to turn around and shake hands with you. To start telling them some really deep, dark secrets, or making some up. But those are times when, so you're engaged in there. You're asking them some real probing, penetrating, deep, dark stuff. I mean, you're not the first time out. But as you gain trust, you're able to go there and engage in conversation with others. Don't be afraid. There was a guy I was talking to in England, and I said, we were talking about finances, and I said, do you want to talk about personal finances a little bit further? And he said, my finances? I said, yeah. You mean my personal finances? I said, yes. Do we have to talk about it? And I said, well, now that you put it that way, yes. Particularly yes. British culture, I'm told at least, verify, that's not what we talk about. We don't go there. After he exposed where he was, what was going on, what his need was, we started talking about strategy I said, what would it look like if you were freed to minister and help guys plant churches all across England? What would that look like? Oh, that'd be great. Not have to worry about it, not have to have a border in your home or multiple borders, not have to have your wife she was cooking fish and chips or something, and not have your wife do this. What would that be like? Oh, that'd be glorious. Well, let's come up with how to do that. And in that hour, we came up with it. He implemented it right away. Literally, in less than 3 months, he had his full salary already raised. It was just sitting right there. He hadn't done it. What I'm saying is, that's not on me. That's on the whole coaching thing. It's just, you just need somebody sometime to engage with you, to enter into your life, not being afraid to enter into that part of their life where you could really be of help, and then move it forward. Smart objectives. So you want to look at, what are we going for? Josh told me, and Josh gave me permission to say this anytime. Josh told me, said, I want to start some missional community groups. He called them gospel communities. I want to start some gospel communities this year. I said, okay, how many do you want to start? I want to start 5. All right, I'm going to start 5. This year, when do you mean by this year? Probably by September. I'm going to start 5 missional communities by September. So you're trying to get to that specific, measurable, aspiring, okay? Why do you want to do that? So that we can care for the entire body as it's growing. And what are the results of this? What is time? As it turned out with Josh's case, he hadn't thought it all the way through, and we had to back that all the way down to casting vision to his elders to begin with. His church didn't know about it. His elders didn't know about it. He didn't have a plan. Okay, so you need to cast vision before your elders, before you just throw that out there. That was a part of our walking through, figuring out what the objective is. Once you get the objective, the strategy is where you're going to spend most of your time. So simply, you're just thinking through, all right, I am helping them to move from point A to point B. That's the coaching, one-on-one, right? Point A to point B. And I'm going to help them get there. Now, we're going to practice this in just a moment. You're going to have a chance to do this on a long time here. And you're going to help them walk through. Quickly identify. I don't spend any more than 5 minutes connecting. If it's been a long time since we've talked, that's another story, maybe 7, okay? We're not there to connect socially. We're there to get a job done. Now, I don't mean to be stiff on that, but When you're in that time, you want to use your other time. You can call them driving. I use drive time to call people all the time. Call them, you're talking to them. Now you're cutting up and just relating to them. You're seeing them other times. That's okay. But when you're in the clinic, if you will, you're coming in there for a purpose to help them. So I connect with them no more than 5 minutes. Figure out, we review real couple of minutes. We're going to figure out what are we going to talk about now? Less than 5 minutes. That leaves only about 30 minutes left where I can walk with them through some strategies to figure that out, because that's where the work is done right there. It's figuring out how to get from point A to point B where they feel like they want to go. Following what I'm saying? You're looking for, say, well, I don't know what. I used to draw this map. Literally would draw this map and would put it on a piece of paper. And I'd say, all right, in the parking lot, I'm going to connect. The review is, where are they now? You know, when you walk into a mall, I don't go to malls very often, so I always have to look at where are you and how do I get from here to whatever store I'm looking to go to. It's that, where are you now? That's the review process. The objective is top of the mountain. Okay, where are you headed? Top of the mountain, always there. What's the objective? And now the journey along the way. And I used to write, okay, so what help do you have along the way? What resources do you currently have? What things stand in the way? What rocks, what log, what are issues in the way, if you will? And I would literally draw things in this and write words so I could visually see to get them around this issue. Because if we could, well, I haven't talked to my elders and got permission. Well, do you think that should be your first step? Yeah, all right. What are you going to tell them? So sometimes their objective changes now. You go like, what I need to do is cast vision to my elders, which means I have to have it articulated. I need to get a vision for what this is going to be beforehand. And then finally, prayer. You're depending on the Spirit. You are trusting Him. You are asking for help. Literally, in the book here, I put down some things. I put down 30 or so things that people, here it is, there's 50 of them that I got from Frank Viola. 50 ways that the Spirit is helpful, page 73. He convicts the world of sin, He guides, He regenerates, He glorifies, He reveals, He leads, He sanctifies, He empowers, He fills, He teaches. Those are just the first 10. There's 50 of them. We really can be dependent upon the Spirit to help us walk through what would it look like to be Spirit-led in our coaching. So, we're going to get ready. You're going to coach. Here's how we're going to do this. Groups of 3, ideally. It can be done with groups of 2. If you can recruit somebody in there, that'd be helpful. In groups of 3, one person's being coached, the other 2 are, one's going to coach, one's being coached, the other is taking notes. There's space in your book to even write. Here are notes that I had. Observation while watching another person's coaching, page 78. You're writing down. As you're coaching, you can take some notes that would help you. There's place while you're coaching to write down notes. And then once you finish that, the group will give input to the coach. This is about the coach, not about necessarily the person being coached, but you're giving input on them. So that's where it says feedback on my coaching. Bloom, bloom, bloom. Here's what they said. You didn't ask, you asked too many closed-in questions or whatever's going to help the coach at that point. So here's what we want. I want you to walk through cross. So practice connecting. Don't spend a lot of time there because you can have 20 minutes. Each person has 20. Can I use you for an example? Not to, you don't have to say anything, but so we go 20 minutes being coached. One's coaching another, the other's observing and taking down some notes. Things will be helpful. After that 20 minutes, give them for 5 minutes, you share back and forth. Here's what I heard. Here's what I saw. You kept looking at your watch. You were looking around. You weren't paying attention. So keep eye contact, whatever's helpful for them, okay? And then switch. So you go 20, 5-minute review, 20, 5-minute review, 20, 5-minute review. That's going to take 75 minutes. So we're going to go 15 because that'll take us, because we have 1 hour, okay? Take 15 minutes each. So our coaching will be 15, 5-minute review, 15. See how I just started with the end in mind? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to do that right now. Here's the question you're going to ask right here. What 1 or 2 things could you change in your life that would make a difference? Okay? What 1 or 2 things could you change in your life that make a difference? Now, if you're in groups of 2, you can go 20 or 22 minutes each if you want to do that. Okay, that's what you're going to do. So here, I say, man, that's going to be chaos. Just break up, do it right there. You can move wherever is necessary. There's a couple empty spots over here, perhaps, as you want to kind of move around and get together, get eye contact, and walk it through. Okay, any questions before we start? Concerning what your exercise is? That's your question. You've got it up there. I'm not going to keep the computer on. You time yourself. 15 minutes, 5 minutes review, 15 minutes. This time right here. Someone left earlier and just said, God, you know, that last part, just practicing and pulling all together, I can do this. And that's what I love to hear over and over again, and I hear all often is people say, I can do this. What was your reflection on your practice time right here? Anybody become a Christian during this?
You know what? Spencer said he was really glad that he came with me.
With you particularly?
Yeah, and so just like
Yeah.
what we got done, it was,
That's great.
yeah, so that was really good.
That's great.
A recognition that we have defaults that we fall into, and sometimes we need to step out of those defaults to be most effective in the coaching situation.
Good. And so kind of give me, for instance, what you're talking about defaults.
My defaults are to find the issues and begin addressing them. And they pointed out to me that I need to be finding the issues, but allowing them to explore them and come to the conclusions about them.
Okay, good. Good. It's a great example of what takes place in coaching and what you should be aiming for as well. So thank you for helping him to point that out, and thank you for helping to remind us that's what our goal was. I saw another hand, but didn't. Yeah, Mark?
I was thinking it showed me that it's important to invite the Holy Spirit to guide us a little bit in this as well, because we could stay on the surface and stay there, but it takes a little bit of, I think, spiritual guidance to get into the deeper issues
Yeah.
sometimes, so it's important to pray.
As I mentioned before, page 78-ish or so, you don't have to look at there now, but list of 50. I mean, I just found that overwhelming how the Holy Spirit can help in your coaching. So great. Thanks for sharing that. What else?
I really appreciate it because it's, in my head, it's so much better than counseling. Because
Yeah.
it's somebody who actually, you're going to talk to somebody who, what do you want to accomplish based on your calling and so on. So the structure for me is really helpful.
Yeah, you don't have to feel like God loves you and I have a wonderful plan for your life. And I'm going to help guide you there. It's what has God called you, and when you put the onus on the person, what has God called you to do? And then you come and recognize that and help them come alongside. And you can give guidance, right? It's kind of recognize it by asking the right questions and saying, good. That's awesome. Well, a couple of quick things. One is, I mentioned, basically you've got the training in your hand with this. I mean, this was the purpose of this. Say, well, how do I get these? These are available through Amazon directly. Can come to you either in print form, and the print form is obviously exactly as it is. And then it's also available in Kindle. Now, to be fair, the Kindle isn't as clean as the print. And I think there's a cost. They'll say, we'll make it exactly if you'll pay us. I don't know what that cost is, but we wanted to get it available as quickly as we could, so we're just discovering this. But the cost on these are like 12 cents more than they set the price based on what it would cost. They set the price, and it was like $5.38. I put $5.50 just to make it a round number is all it was. So there's no money being made on these. I made them as low as Amazon would allow, okay, 12, except for 12 cents, to get them into your hands as quickly as you could. So you can order whatever you want, use those, take them into your own training if you desire to do so, however that you want. So that's free for you to take advantage. By the way, if you have Kindle and you don't know this, if Kindle, and you go like, well, how do you do a workbook with Kindle? I saw somebody over here had the Kindle out. Did you have it out? And you can put notes in there, and you can put the answers in if you didn't already know that. You can figure it out. The other thing is the certification. If you want to go through with this, and it's up to you. If you'd like to do so, all you're doing is get Gospel Coach book has more of it. If you follow through on that, and then you're attended the training, come to be a part. Then coach 2 people for 5 times each. So you have over 10 in total. And then submit to them, and I'll send you an email what that is, that link that you would send to them. You don't need it right away because you'll have to have coached them 5 times. You'll send them this link, and they'll score you 1 to 5 based on those characteristics of a shepherd: knowing, feeding, leading, and protecting. And we've asked questions of those. How well did they do, 1 to 5? And that doesn't mean you fail, or it means here's where you are scored in this particular area. And we'll break it down and say, in this area right here, it appears that you believe you're connecting with them, for instance, and you're not. You think you are. You're a 5, because you get to score your own as well, and it's added to it. But you say you're a 5, and they're saying 2. There's a big difference between there. And so we'll give you those scores where you are, and see where you land, okay? But if you've registered, we've got your email, and we'll follow up with that very thing. If you have questions, just send it to gospelcoach@gmail.com. It's that simple, and I'll answer them as quickly as possible and help you out.
I may have missed this. Is there access to the appendices that are in the gospel coaching book online? So like the questions and the forms and so on. Is there some way to access those? You talk about Evernote, and that's what you use.
Now, so you're talking about the questions on there?
All the appendices that are in the gospel coaching book.
Yeah. Those are copyrighted by Zondervan because they published them. I have a Word doc, but I can't give them out. But you can certainly feel free to.
So basically you're saying we need to create our own document to give to our people we're coaching.
Yeah, you can take them directly out of there. Just ask somebody to do them. There's no problem with that because you're not distributing it. But for me to do it, I would violate their copyright.
What's number 6?
6 is submit. So after you've gone through that and submitted your document, your online, this is online, then there's also an online questionnaire. Okay, how do you plan to use this? It's basically just a final coaching. So tell me what you're going to do with this. And then, boom. What was your scores? What were your reflections? What are you going to work on? How do you plan to use this? So it's just that final thing to say, yes, I'm serious. I want to do this.
Great, thank you.
I heard there was a test.
There was, and we took it off because of the website. That was gave access to the website, which is not yet in works. There's a group who, Church Plant Media, based in Oklahoma City, and they said they were going to put in $650,000 worth of work for a website to recreate it. So it's not yet ready. When we do that, then there'll be a test just to get access back. I just want to see if people are serious about it. Then, and of course, the website was free, and it will be free. And Church Plant Media is going to make it free for everybody who is trained in gospel coach, and never a cost. So we'll put a test back on there to go like, all right, there's a cost. It means just make one extra effort and tell me you're serious about this. Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, we're going to take an offering. No. Take an offering. Appreciate the time that you were here today. It was really an encouragement to me to see you engage and work together and do this. And I just pray that it'll be something that you could use to make disciples, to build leaders, to develop the skills that are necessary to other people, to see them come alive, see God work in their life. Our goal is that there's healthy churches planted all over this great nation, and seeing that done and multiple disciples made as a result of this. And you get a chance to come alongside and be a leader in that. Hopefully you'll take this tool. It'll be useful for you to use, to implement, to replicate, and then maybe even to train some other people to be a part of it. But if we can ever serve you, we'd love to do so. Just let me know. So God bless you. Thanks.